And you have been watching a CBS News special report on a ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas. This just happening within the past few moments or so. I want to bring in now CBS News contributor Robert Berger. He is live in Jerusalem. Robert, I want to go over some of the terms of this agreement. 33 hostages expected to be released from Hamas in the coming days. How soon could we see these hostages released? We're talking about women, children, and senior citizens expected to be among those who are released this weekend.
Well, this is a 6-week ceasefire, so we're going to see a gradual release of these hostages, perhaps in batches of 3 or 4, with the several days in between. The hope is that the first release of 3 hostages could take place as early as Sunday.
And also, too, with this agreement, Palestinians will be released from Israeli custody. What can you tell us about that?
We think the number is around 1,000 Palestinian prisoners that would be released over this 6 weeks, this 6-week ceasefire. And that includes minors, women, and also some militants who are serving life sentences for deadly terrorist attacks on Israelis. That, of course, doesn't sit well with the Israeli public, but what people are saying is, that the government too, is that that's the price you have to pay to get those Israeli hostages home. And let's point out, 33 is only about a third of the Israeli hostages held in Gaza.
This is a big win for the Biden administration, just less than a week until a new administration takes over. But Margaret Brennan brought up a really interesting point that this deal was actually brokered by members of the Biden team, but also the Trump team, too. What can you tell us about that?
Well, there's been Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, was in the region, and from what I've heard, kind of twisting arms, both here in Israel and in Qatar, which to put pressure, Qatar being a mediator with Hamas, to get them to close a deal before he took office. Mr. Trump has famously said that if there wasn't a deal by his inauguration next Monday, that there would be all hell to pay. And I think that put pressure both on the Arab mediators and on the Israeli government, including Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Now, it's important to note that this deal still needs to go through the Israeli government. Can you tell us a little bit about how that process works?
First, it will go to the cabinet, where we're expecting a strong majority to support it. There are a couple of right-wing cabinet ministers who oppose this. They don't like the idea of releasing terrorists, and they think that that only encourages more kidnapping. But they're going to be in the minority. This vote will get through the cabinet, and then there will be some legal hurdles to overcome. People who oppose the release of the Palestinians can take that to the Supreme Court here in Jerusalem, but that will most likely, the court will approve that release, and that would clear the way for a hostage release beginning as early as Sunday.
And this deal hopefully will bring an end to this very brutal and bloody war. Tens of thousands of people have been killed over the past year, more than a year-long war. Can you give us some perspective on how big a deal this is today?
Well, on both sides of the border, both in Israel and in Gaza, people are exhausted from this war. For the families of the hostages, it's been a huge trial, but actually for the whole country. I mean, especially the hostage issue. The fact that there are 98 Israeli hostages, 60 of whom are believed to be alive, that have been held in these dungeons, is something that has hung over the nation really since October 7th, 2023. And so there's some relief, but having said that, as I mentioned, there's still going to be, if this deal goes through, the 33, if they get freed, you still have 65 who are left in Gaza, and it's not clear if and when they're going to make it home.
So what comes next after all of this, Robert? There's a 42-day implementation, as Margaret Brennan reported, to this ceasefire deal. What happens after that?
Okay, so 16 days into this ceasefire, Not clear exactly when the starting point is, but
Okay.
16 days after that, negotiations begin on the second phase to release those 65 Israeli hostages who are left. Probably another 2,000 at least Palestinian prisoners would be freed during that time, and probably an end to the war if all the hostages are returned. But frankly, I see that second phase as being quite problematic and not a done deal at all.
All right, Robert Berger coming to us live from Jerusalem. Thank you so much for that insight, sir.